Welcome. It's great to have you all here. I know it's busy times at the moment, so we really appreciate you taking the time out to mention. We're really excited that Asset Map, oh, give me 1 second, there we go. That Asset Map was the winner this year again for the Specialized Financial Planning application at the Wealth Management Awards. So that's super exciting. And today we want to share with you some of the global best practice trends that we're seeing, but specifically how that impacts South African financial planners and South African clients. And we thought it's great timing with it being Heritage Day this week. So, to look forward, it's always good to look at the journey we've been on so far. And if we look back to the start of that journey, we often sort of half jokingly refer to it as the back of a cigarette box financial planning. But we know at that time in the past, it was very sales-oriented financial planning, and the trust in the industry, wasn't, great, and clients felt, a little bit taken advantage of at that time. But if we look at the last 10, 20 years, the wave of change that has happened in South African financial planning, if we just look from a legislation point of view with the likes of FAIS, TCF, recently POPIA, if we look from a professionalism point of view with formal planners becoming CFPs and certified financial planners, and the great work that bodies like the FPI have done to really professionalize and restore trust in the industry. We also saw a shift and a focus in a lot of analysis, compliance, reporting, all with the focus to have better outcomes for South African clients. And then more recently, we saw the rise of behavioral finance and just, the impact that clients' behavior has on their ability to stick with their plan. So if we take while we know there's still challenges, if we do take a step back and look at the journey we've been on, I think we can be really proud of the changes and enhancements in financial planning in South Africa over the last 20 years. But the big question is, what's the next step? Where to from here? So today we're going to be looking at 3 key trends that we're seeing from a global best practice advice point of view. And the first one is this idea of simplifying advice. The second one is about being specific about the value that we add for clients. And the third one is about increasing our engagement with clients. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on each of these themes. If we take a look at the first one, and we think about that journey through the eyes of financial advisors over the last 20 years, and all of that change we've seen, what has that journey been like for clients? How are they experiencing those changes? And at the moment, it can sometimes look a bit like this. So we see lots of graphs, lots of tables, lots of pages. A financial plan for, a 25-year-old that needs more life cover and maybe needs to start saving for retirement can be up to 30 pages long and require 4 to 5 signatures to implement. So it's not hard to believe then that if this is the experience for clients, that sometimes they're sitting across the table from us, looking at what we're presenting and thinking, this all looks a little bit like gobbledygook. I'm not sure if I ever say that word right, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. And then it's not hard to imagine then that clients probably feel overwhelmed, confused, dependent. And I think, I often hear planners say, when I sit with clients, they say to me, you know what, I trust you. Tell me what to do. And I think it's amazing that we're able to create that trust and that trust so quickly. But what are they really saying when they say that? And I think perhaps they're saying, I don't understand. And while that may be okay up front because they've got this trust factor and because our intention is to do the right thing for the client, a year later, should something change in that client's circumstances, it's very easy for them to then default from the plan because they never understood it in the first place. So the key thing is, how do we get clients to really understand the advice that we're giving them so that they feel not dependent, but empowered? Because a client that is empowered to make informed decisions around where they are and where they're going is much more likely to stick to the plan that you have in place. So what's the trend that we're seeing here? And this trend is around taking the complexity, which we know is important, the analysis, the tables, all of that complexity that sits in the back end, but presenting it in a way that is simple enough for a client to understand, and most importantly, to be able to engage with. That's the key that we want to drive, is that engagement. And there's a great quote that said, I'm sorry this letter is so long. I didn't have the time to make it shorter. And I think that really sums up where we're at the industry, is to say we need to be able to take this complexity and present it in a way that clients can easily understand. Now, there are many different ways that you could do this. I'm going to share how Asset Map aims to do that. And we do it using a concept called simple rich. So we still need the rich backing of it, but we need to be able to present it in a way that's simple. So I'm going to flip over into an asset map of a client and just talk through a little bit about how that would look. Yeah. So just move this out of the way, 1 second. Boom, and it's pop up. Okay, so this is the Parkers. We have Joe and Jenny Parker. And here at the we can see at the top here, we also have Kyle and Jessica Parker. And let's take a look at what their picture looks like. So the first thing at the top is we want to show all the people in the family. So we've got Joe and Jenny and Kyle and Jessica. Because if you think about the 3 questions clients really want to understand, is where am I now? What do I have? We have things all over the place. Show me what I have in a simple way. Show me if I'm on track, to achieve the things that I want to achieve, but also in the case of unexpected events. And if I'm not on track, show me how to get on track. So if we think about that in the context of the Parkers, here we're showing on one page everything that they have at the moment. So we can say, Joe, here's the income that you're earning. This is your retirement fund that you have with your employer, as well as your unit trust and your emergency funding. You also have life cover in place, both with group life and independently, and you've got some disability cover in place as well. If we take a look at Jenny's side, Jenny, you've also got this life cover in place and disability protection. You've got your salary here and your retirement funding and emergency funding we can see over here. At the bottom, we can show the client what they own together. So here's their property and their home loan. So what we've done here is answered that first question. What is everything that I have? Where is all of it? And show it to me in a way that I can simply understand it. So by creating a one-page view of everything in that family's life, we're answering that question. And now it becomes much easier to engage with the client around what they have and what it means for them and their family. But that second question we know is, show me if I'm on track. So if I go over here to what we call target maps, here we can show clients very quickly how on track they are for the things that they want, as well as the unexpected events that they want to ensure they're okay for. So here I can see, in the case of retirement funding, you are 65% funded. In the event of something happening to Joe, you're 83% funded. And for disability, you're 94% funded. So again, in one simple visual, we're showing the client how on track am I? That second question. The third one is, well, what do I do to bridge this gap? What are the things I can do differently? So in this case, we can say, well, in the event of retirement, Joe and Jenny, you mentioned that you wanted to have 50,000 Rand a month, so 600,000 a year, and you wanted to protect that at least until age 100. You're also really excited to celebrate retirement by going on a trip, and you want to allocate 200,000 to that, when you retire. So these are the things you want to achieve. But let's take a look at what you have in place. So we know you each have your own retirement fund that you're currently contributing to, but you've also got this unit trust, Joe. And what if Joe says, well, yes, let's allocate that towards retirement. Okay, well, let's allocate it and see what the impact of that is on your plan. Okay, now you're 72% funded. What are the other things we could do? And this is where you would work through all the different options together with the clients around what they could do differently to fund that shortfall and bridge that gap. Well, one of the things we could do is we could target a higher return. Through our discussions around what risks you prefer, we know that we can target inflation plus 3 or 9% return. Let's see what impact that has on this plan. Okay, now you're 94% funded towards retirement. What else can we do? Well, here we can see that in order to bridge this gap and ensure you can achieve all the things you want to achieve, you would need to save an extra 3,700 Rand per month. So again, just to reflect, we're answering those 3 questions. Where am I today? What are all the things I have? Who are the people in my life that are impacted by my decisions and who I want to bring into this conversation? Am I on track? And what do I need to do differently to get on track? But we're doing it all in a way where it has the rich calculations at the back, but it's a simple visual that the client can easily understand and we can engage with them on. Okay, so that's global trend number 1, this idea of simplifying, this idea of showing the client in a way that we can engage with them. What's the next trend that we're seeing? Now, this one is about our value prop to clients. And this is something that often planners say is a challenge at the moment. How do I share my value proposition with clients in a way that they understand the value that I'm adding? We all know the value that financial planners are adding to clients, but how do we help clients feel and really understand that value? And I think the how lies in the fact that we need to shift our value proposition from being generic to being quite specific for the client so that they can easily relate to that value. We often talk about our advice or our value propositions as I'm a lifestyle financial planner, I'm a holistic financial planner, I'm a goal-based financial planner. But the part that we need to shift is I am a lifestyle financial planner for people like you. We need to be able to bring in ways for the clients to relate to it. And we think the best way of doing that is by telling stories. Telling stories about clients similar to that client. And we do that through something we call a sample map. And what the sample map aims to do is to share with a prospective client the process and the value you added for another client that is similar to them, that they can relate to. For example, if my prospective client is a business owner, I want to talk them through a sample map of a business owner because it's showing the client then this is what I do for business owners. They have their own unique challenges, their own unique things that they need to think about, and this is the value I add for them. Or if I'm dealing with single parent households, these are the challenges that we see in single parent households and their unique needs. And this is the process I take them through. You can see immediately the feeling for the client is different because it's this planet does this for people like me in the circumstances I have. They really understand people like me, what my unique challenges and needs are. And so it shifts that feeling and clients can start to really understand your value and the process that you take clients through. When sharing your value proposition, it's important to address these 4 factors. And disclaimer, we did make up this acronym. I blame Gary, but hopefully it makes it a little bit more memorable and you remember the 4 points. But the first one is possibilities. When we meet with the client, they come into that with certain expectations. We come into it with certain expectations. So how do we open up new pathways for the client where they can start to see new and different possibilities? We want to show empathy. By showing a client, this is what I do for people like you, the client feels this planner understands people like me. If we can empathize with people, with that client who's similar to me, they'll be able to understand and have empathy for me. We want to demonstrate our value proposition to clients across the household. So we want to show all the people in the household and everyone that we bring into the conversation so that the client knows this planner looks at everyone in the family and everyone who's dependent on the decisions I make. But probably the most important one is the fourth one. We want to remove intimidation. Financial planning conversations, by their very nature, can be intimidating. We're asking clients about what they earn. We're asking them, what have you saved up until now? What protection do you have in place for your family? Those questions can be really, really intimidating for clients. So by taking them through a story, we can remove some of that intimidation. And how would we do that? So here's an example of a sample map for a family. It's the Jetsons, another Gary. But we start by taking them through this family's story. So in other words, the things I want to cover is who are the people that we brought into the picture. So right at the top and say, when we were working with the Jetsons, we looked at Neil and his wife, Lauren, but we also added their mother-in-law. The reason for that is their mother-in-law is currently dependent on them, and we needed to ensure that we brought her into the picture to make sure that any decisions we make that impact her, and also to ensure that we, make sure she's okay as well. We also brought their son into play because he's obviously dependent on the parents as well. Immediately, the client's thinking about their own circumstances. Sure, who are the people in my family that are or may in the future become dependent on me? And therefore, you positioning that expectation with the client to say, we need to know about everyone. We need to bring everyone into that conversation. The second thing you're going to do is talk through everything the Jetsons have. So we can mention things like, you can see here, Neil has a pension fund with the employer. Neil also has a play account with Easy Equities. Again, what we're positioning to the client is, oh, I should tell the planner about those things. They're going to ask me about what I have. So immediately, you're positioning that expectation, but also removing that intimidation factor. Because when you now sit down with this client and ask them about the investments they have, they understand how it fits into this picture. They understand why you're asking those questions, and that intimidation factor has been removed. You also want to point out the challenges in this example, in the story of this client. So things like, you can see here, Neil had life cover in place, but from a disability point of view, there wasn't anything specifically in place. So we explored that, to understand, could that be funded from other sources, or would we need to look at that? So immediately the client feels, okay, I'm also going to have gaps and challenges, and that's okay. We're going to work through it, explore it, and figure it out. And lastly, you want to show things like how. So in other words, you could use this block at the bottom here to say, when I met with the Jetsons, they didn't have a will in place. And that was something we flagged as being important that we wanted to, address. How did we do that? Well, we started by having a really open conversation around, what happens to their child, who would the guardian be if something happened to them? We also spoke about what the financial needs would be if something happened to them. We then sat down and drafted it based on those conversations and implemented the will, which we review every 2 to 3 years to make sure it still reflects their wishes. So you can see how by taking the client through a story of someone else, but most importantly, someone that they can relate to, who's in a similar, family type that they have, you've covered those 4 aspects. You've opened up new possibilities, removed the intimidation factor, showed the client what the next steps are going to be, given that clarity, and opened up, more possibilities. Now, this process is great for new clients because people love stories and people learn through stories, but also they get a great understanding of your value proposition if you share it with them through a story. We've created 8 sample maps that represent, families in South Africa that our asset map planners can use. So one for a young family, one for a business owner, one for a single parent household. And because it's on Asset Map, our planners can also tailor those to meet specifically what their target market clients look like. And they can also create as many of these sample maps as they want. Now, it's great for new clients, but it's also great for existing clients. So I often hear from planners, when I first started planning, I brought on a few clients, maybe I did one or two things for them, but my process has changed a lot over the years. And that's great because clients want your process to enhance over time because that shows you're keeping up to date. And that's the part of the value that we add to clients. But often the question is, but how do I go back to those existing clients and open up a new, offering or open up a new process for them and take them through that? And this is a great way of doing that too, by sharing stories. It's also a great way of bringing the spouse into the conversation. So sometimes the one spouse is our client, but we don't know much about the other spouse. How do we bring them into the conversation? Through a story. So these can be used in a lot of different ways, but all with the objective of how do I show my value in a way that clients really understand it? So my value for people like me. Okay. Now we're moving on to the third point and the third theme, which is about more client engagement. And if we have a look at that, when I say more client engagement or more advice, I don't necessarily mean you need to go out and get more clients and take on a whole lot of new clients. It could be more engagement even with your existing clients. But what global research and trends is showing us, if we have a look at Michael Kitz's recent blog, is what separates the top 25% of planners from the bottom 25% of planners is 1 additional hour of client engagement a day. And that actually results in 64% increase of the clients that they can look after, but also an 80% increase in the take-home pay. So just to clarify, so that's 1 extra hour of client engagement separates the bottom from the top 25%. Now, I'm sure you're probably sitting there looking at me going, where do I get this extra hour from to do client engagement or more client engagement when I'm already full from 8 till 5? Well, the point is, this is where fintech comes into play. And I think if we look at fintech over the last few years, the focus has really been on things like reporting, compliance, analysis, workflows. The shift we're seeing is this focus that fintech is going to focus on the client engagement to make it simpler to do client engagement, quicker, but also to deepen that engagement between the planner and the client. And that's where we see that progression happening. And again, that needs to be across these different working types. So we know that traditionally planners were more face-to-face. Now, expedited by COVID, we're doing a lot more remote meetings. But where this trend is going is to say that, a planner won't be one or the other. Also, a client won't be a face-to-face client or a remote meeting client. What we're going to find is that throughout the client's journey, there will be a hybrid and it'll be quite fluid, where some meetings will be face-to-face, some may be telephone calls, some will be using, digital media, screens, etc., and others will be remotely. So whatever technology you use to enable your client experience, it needs to be able to work through all of these mediums, not just remotely. It needs to facilitate face-to-face as well. So those are the 3 trends we're seeing. To just clarify them again, it's about taking the complexity, simplifying it so that we have more engagement with clients and better engagement with clients. And it's about being specific about the value that we add and showing it in a way that clients can feel it and understand this is what this planner does for people like me. And by doing that, we'll be able to have more engagement with more clients. If I summarize that in one sentence, is to say the next step is a value proposition that's relatable for clients like me and an engagement experience that increases productivity. But not only that, it must at the same time deepen the client-advisor relationship. And below here, you'll just see 2 recent comments from some of our Asset Map financial planners, showing how Asset Map is enabling them to meet that goal. Okay. Thank you all for your time today. I'm going to hand over to Benny.
Chris, maybe take a sec for people to read through that, or read it through, because it's quite a mouthful.
Fair point.
Or give it a quick summary.
Everyone's ready to do it. But I mean, really what Penny is saying is it takes 1/4 of the time, by using Asset Map, which is again talking to that point of increasing productivity, but doing it in a way that deepens the client engagement. What Alfred is saying is that time and time again, clients arrive with their Asset Map with notes all over it. So it's really showing how even though it's simpler and quicker and increases productivity, it doesn't take away from that client engagement. If anything, it's enhancing that, and clients are more engaged because they can simply understand it and work through it with you. Yeah, Benny?
Awesome, Kirsty. Thank you very much. I mean, you're going to be blown away by the comments. Me and Gary were really kept busy. So thank you very much. We even had a comment, Kirsty for president. so thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah. So for me, just to then end off quickly, as I said, I know some of you on the call have seen Asset Map over the last 2 years. I just want to point out that there's been a lot of changes and enhancements. The platform just keeps getting better and better. It's fully POPI and what we call GDPR, the best practice data security. It's all the terminology has been updated to fit in with South Africa. It's been completely rebuilt for speed, and there's lots of new features. And of course, the future is very exciting. I mean, Asset Map is launching in the next few months. They're launching what they call the first iteration of an artificial intelligence, bringing that into the platform. And so you can see where this is going. It really is to give for advisors to give a better experience to their clients while increasing their productivity. So as Kirsty says, having the best of both worlds. All right, so thank you very much, everyone, for your time to play out. We're going to just play a little video clip to end off and just give you a sense of what Asset Map means to clients.
Making good financial decisions requires an understanding of our current condition, all the financial holdings we've acquired over the years, and progress relative to our goals. The challenge is that most of our financial holdings don't get the attention they need because we simply don't have time and expertise to optimize them, let alone question their place in our life. Most of us need a little help getting it all together. The truth is that other people in our household are often dependent on us and our decisions, and we just can't afford to be wrong in this department. Sometimes we could use a little help. So what if we could start by organizing all our financial decisions into one simple, rich visual? An asset map. What might we notice that's missing or out of place? Who might we collaborate with to help make better decisions? What ideas might we implement to get into a better situation? With new visual clarity, we might just make more informed decisions that serve everyone in our household. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then an asset map is worth, well, a lot more. Take some time to start your discovery and facilitate a more meaningful financial conversation.